Good afternoon to all the academicians, media professionals, students, and parents who have joined us today. I'm Vijay, teaching faculty in the Department of Visual Communication class. I welcome you all for this fourth day of our international webinar series on digital and media literacy in disinformation age, organized by the Department of Visual Communication, Kumaraguru College of Liberal Arts and Science. Class Viscom started this visual display of event to create awareness on media literacy, which is the need of the hour. This event is in partnership with UNESCO's Global Alliance for Partnerships on Media and Information Literacy (GAPMIL). The pedagogical model of class is based on the doctrine of liberal arts education, which facilitates the students in acquiring a flexible and tailored degree with a wide range of optional modules within your major and beyond. Kumaraguru College of Liberal Arts and Science offers various programs under UG, PG, PG Diploma, and Diploma. The Department of Visual Communication offers a 3 year program in BSc Visual Communication and a 1 year PG diploma in visual effects. The college also offers a 6 month diploma in journalism. Please do check your website or visit our campus to join us in the class journey. Now, let me welcome Mrs. Ananda Karthik to introduce our guest for today's webinar, Dr. Padma Rani, Professor and Director, Manipal Institute of Communication, Manipal. Over to you, Mrs. Ananda.
Thank you, Professor Vijay. Society changes, but some of its fundamentals do not. Among these fundamentals is the freedom to express our ideas, to read, to listen, to write, and to produce information and communicate with others. But we must realize that the ongoing process of digitization has altered the function of media and social behavior. Media, including online media, represents social and cultural resources that can empower people in both their personal development and the development as members of society. But these potentialities also have implications. Most importantly, when we talk about freedom of expression, media, and information, we must realize that media and information literacy is a key competence in a rapidly evolving communicative society. The focus of today's webinar is connecting media and information literacy. We have with us Dr. Padma Rani, Professor and Director of the prestigious Manipal Institute of Communication, MAHE Manipal. Dr. Padma Rani is a well-known researcher and a thorough academician whose core areas of expertise and research are internet and new media, political communication, media management and policy, as well as communication research. She is known for her highly relevant and extremely articulate research papers that have been published in various national and international journals. In fact, she has been a visiting faculty to University of Applied Sciences Bremen, Germany, as well as the Nürnberg Simon University at Germany. She has conducted a study on the communication strategies adopted by the Government of India for social security schemes. She is also a highly honored member of International Sociological Association, also of Asian Media and Information Center, International Association of Media and Communication Research, and also has been the chairperson of Communication and Journalism Research Center, India Social Science Congress. She's also a lifetime member of Indian Sociological Society and lifetime member of Indian Women's Studies. It's indeed my privilege to share this forum with you, ma'am, and welcome to our program today. Over to you.
A warm good afternoon to all of you. At the outset, I would like to thank the management of Kumaraguru College of Liberal Arts and Sciences and the Department of Visual Communication for inviting me to deliver a lecture during the international webinar series on digital and media literacy in disinformation age. I would also like to thank UNESCO and GAPMIL for taking part and in associating with this college. Before I begin my talk today, I would also like to thank Ananda for introducing me. Uh, Ananda has made me a big person. I'm not so, I'm just a humble teacher. Today, I'll be talking to you about connecting media and information literacy. Now, why is this topic important and why should we be talking about media and information literacy? Media and information literacy basically seeks to promote a deeper understanding of the ways media and technology enable or limit a person's ability to live with freedom and personal agencies. And media and information literacy has a direct bearing on privacy and other related actions among ordinary people. It's all of us who are affected, not a particular section of society. And especially in this, like she rightly mentioned, in this growing uh, world of technology where there is an information overload and things, we need to understand what is media and information literacy and what is the relevance. And since I thought that there would be a lot of students, the flow of my talk today would be what is media literacy, then what is information literacy, and the relationship of media and information literacy, the relevance of this for the youth today, and finally, I would conclude my talk. Now, going back to what is media literacy, and we first need to look at the various definitions that's prevalent or that already exists, and different people have defined it in different ways. Today, media has a variety of forms, whether it could be visual, audio, printed. There are also convergent models of the media. And media literacy is to be able to access media messages, to analyze and evaluate the accessed media from a critical point of view and to produce their own messages. So it's not enough that one is able to access and understand, but also one has to be able to produce their own messages after accessing and understanding that message. The second definition that I would like to all of you to pay attention to is media literacy refers to accessing, understanding, interpreting, analyzing, and self-creating media content disseminated via mass communication channels. Now today we are living in a social media age where anything that is and also on a breaking news age, anything that is done today just goes around within a few seconds and it goes viral. And we need to understand that everything that goes viral is not true, it's not legitimate. The next definition that I would like to throw light on is media literacy is the collection of knowledge, skills, and attitudes required for engaging in ethical use of digital media for learning, creative expression, and productive activity. And here in this, I would like to underline the word ethical use. Somewhere over the years, we've forgotten about or we don't pay so much of importance to ethics. And ethics is not only about false or right, but also about protecting your intellectual property rights. UNESCO has gone on to define media literacy as the ability to read, analyze, evaluate, and produce communication in a variety of media forms. So if you look at these definitions, you would realize that it's talking about media in its various forms, whether it is the visual, the auditory, the printed, the digital media, and also about accessing it, analyzing it, evaluating it, as well as, trying to reproduce or produce their own. So it's talking both about, not only about consumption, but also about production of media messages. And today, as consumers of media, we are also involved in producing media, because messages, when we forward our WhatsApp, what are we doing? We are only propagating a particular kind of a message. So both these aspects are all these aspects are equally important. Now, when you look at media literacy, what all constitutes media literacy? The first thing is understand the role and functions of media in a democratic society. And as all of you as media students and media faculty, understand that the function of media is about not only to inform, educate, and entertain. It's all the three that the media has to do. And the second thing is understand the conditions under which media can fulfill their functions. A media can only fulfill all its functions by not taking any sides, or by not propagating any false information, for which I can take a whole class on business of media. But we need to understand those aspects, the economics and the policy behind it. The third aspect of media literacy is to critically evaluate media content in the light of media functions. And we need to look at media content with a little of apprehension, a little of doubt. Everything that comes from the media need not necessarily always be correct or 100% authentic. And with that sense of doubt, we should critically evaluate what is the source, from where has it been taken. All this is very important for a media student or a media practitioner, or even a media consumer. For an ordinary man also, these things are very important. Engage with media for self-expression and democratic participation. And lastly, the active skills, including your information communication technologies, which is needed to produce user generated content. None of us would have ever imagined some 10 years back that we could even make a film using a mobile. We could edit a lot of things using a mobile, and the technology is changing very fast. Today, mobile has really brought about a revolution. Everything is within your palm. One device, you're able to share information, you're able to create some media messages. And not only one platform, you're able to access different platforms with the help of your mobiles. And I'm sure, more technologies will develop in due course of time. And for media literacy, it's important that we take all these 5 aspects into account. You cannot just just understand the role of media and just take in all the information that the media gives in. No, you have to critically evaluate and check the validity of the information. In the same manner, when you are producing an media message, you also need to keep in mind that you are not violating somebody's privacy, you're not violating somebody's IPR, the intellectual property rights of somebody. So those things need to be kept in mind, and people should be aware about such things. And that is what constitutes media literacy. Now, the different aspects of media literacy. This is more in terms of, what I was talking till now is more in terms of theory. Now, look at the different things that constitutes media literacy. And media and information literacy. It's media literacy, digital literacy, internet literacy, computer literacy, news literacy, library literacy, freedom of expression and freedom of information literacy. So, media and information literacy are just two aspects of the broader areas of media and information literacy that we are talking of. Data literacy, which comes from your digital, your computer, all this is also important. I've added library literacy here. Library, that is one of your source of information. You can access a lot of information from library. And as a teacher, I understand and I know that the current generation is very happy accessing things on the internet or accessing things on their mobiles. They fall into the Google search and the Wikipedia search rather than going and to the library and looking at authentic sources. And MIL is not a very narrow term. It's a very wide term. It has a wider gambit within it. All these aspects, whether, how you can use the digital world, how you can use the internet. When I say literacy, it does not mean that, okay, I can use a mobile, so I'm literate. No. I can log in into Google does not make me an internet literate person. It is that I only become an internet literate or a computer literate person when I can access it and do everything that is possible with that device. And I'm able to evaluate and analyze what am I doing with those devices. Yeah. And therefore, we need to understand that MIL is a very broad term. It covers all these aspects. Now, moving on to what is information literacy. Like media literacy, I would like you to look at the definitions of information literacy. Now, what is information literacy? Information literacy is the ability to think critically and make balanced judgments about any information we find and use. Any information that we find. Okay, so information literacy is not the information that we only get from media. It is a broader aspect of it. And any information that you get, are you able to critically think and make a balanced judgment about it? And what does information literacy, the next definition, if you look at it, which was given in the Alexandria Proclamation of UNESCO in 2005, it says information literacy empowers people in all walks of life to seek, evaluate, use, and create information effectively to achieve their professional, social, occupational, and educational goals. It's a basic human right in a digital world and promotes social inclusion in all nations. And if you look at this, information literacy affects all walks of our life. It doesn't affect one aspect of our life, it affects all walks of our life. And if information literacy is really used in the true sense of the Alexandria Proclamation, it promotes social inclusion, which means a lot of people, the concepts that we're talking about today of digital divide, digital natives, digital immigrants, all these things would get slowly, the gaps would slowly reduce, or the gaps should not be there if information literacy is to be thought of as the Alexandria Proclamation. Information literacy is the ability to recognize when information is needed and to locate, evaluate, effectively use, and communicate information in its various forms. And this is a definition given by UNESCO in 2011. Now, if you look at the three definitions, it talks about information at the broader level. And whenever we need an information, we should be able to locate it, evaluate that whether it's right or wrong and use it. Now, just an example here to illustrate this is that supposing, I want to travel to a country, let's say I want to go to Spain, okay? And I do a Google search about how to travel to Spain. There are thousands of, things that would come in my Google search. But how do I know which one is authentic? How do I decide? Do I just go by the number of likes? Or do I have a way by which I can say that these are the authentic sites? Maybe somebody who's traveled often or somebody who's asked people who have traveled often will know that, okay, they could go to TripAdvisor or they could go to Thomas and Cook's website or some other travel, websites. But what about people who are traveling for the first time or who do not know which one would be the best? And how do they make these kind of decisions? I've just taken a hypothetical example to illustrate that how information literacy is, not something that has to be only taught to media students. Media and information literacy is something that is applicable in the lives of ordinary people. It is applicable in our day-to-day activities. Now, moving on further, what constitutes information literacy, or how would we say that, okay, these are the things that makes, if a person is able to do all these things, then his information literacy level is good or he is literate in that sense. Now, the first thing is that define and articulate the information needs. Then locate and access information, assess that information, organize an information, make ethical use of that information, and communicate that information. Okay? To make this point very clear, since this is largely for students, I would take an example from the day-to-day activities that most students have to do. Okay? Imagine that your teacher gives you to write a paper on, let's take this topic itself, information literacy. Where would you go and search for this kind of a topic? The most, apt thing that most of you would do is you would just go into Google search and type information literacy. It might throw you a lot of information, and it will. How do you, know that, okay, this is the information I need? And the first thing is, okay, information literacy, I have to write a term paper on it, but what is all that I need in this term paper? Then you start locating and assessing the information that you get. And once you access the information, once you've got all the information, that you find that, okay, there are so many websites, there is a UNESCO page, and then you start looking at the information that, yes, what you can take, what you cannot take. I'm sure, if your teachers have given you a guideline, you will know you can't take it from blogs, you can't take it from, Wikipedia. And then you have to organize the information. You cannot just copy paste. You need to organize that information before you can hand it over. Now, just organizing that information in different paras is not enough. Make ethical use of the information. And that's very important, because if you just copy paste, your teacher will say it's a plagiarized and she'll give you a 0. So you have to use that information and write it in your own words. And once you've written in your own words, you've cited enough with a reference, is when you submit it to your teacher. Now, you might have written a term paper, submitted to your teacher, got a grade. But what happens? That information which you've collected, which you have accessed, which you have tried to evaluate, also becomes a point of discussion, or it also becomes sometimes a kind of knowledge sharing between your peer groups. And that's where you're communicating the information. And therefore, information literacy is not about that, okay, I have so much of information. No. Today, there's a lot of information overload. Anything and everything that you want to look for, there is a lot of information. But what are those places that I need to look at for a particular thing is what a person needs to know. And where will I get an authentic information? How do I know that this information is authentic? And then able to, after evaluation, to organize that information and make use of it. And this is not something that, it's only for teachers or only for people who are in the media. It's for everybody. Now, moving on to, I think I'm quite clear about what is media literacy and what is information literacy. So now I move on to the relationship between media and information literacy. And that's why I've written relationship of MIL. Now, the whole concept of MIL as a composite term, it was always media literacy or information literacy, but the concept of MIL as a term developed only in 2007. And that was because of the changes and developments that happened in the information and communication technologies. And we know that, there was a very rapid change, especially in the way information was being shared, messages were being shared once with the growth of mobiles and internet. In the last few years, it has seen a rapid increase. Today, the world has really become a global village. Sitting here, we are able to hear or discuss things with people across the world in different time zones. And also the message that is circulated in one part of the nation or in one country doesn't remain there. It goes around everywhere across the world. There might be a time gap, but then all of us are aware. How did we all come to know about corona? It was the media. None of us had traveled to the US or Italy, but we have a lot of information and all of us are still looking for it every time, is because of the information communication technologies. Either through your news feeds on your mobiles or your internet, you're able to see videos, you're able to hear podcasts, and also because of the development of information and communication technologies, they started focusing on the linkages and commonalities between the term media literacy and information literacy. We cannot separate media literacy and information literacy, because the media also provides information and the two are intertwined. They are not two watertight compartments. And they affect each other. If you look at it, both of these terms, they focus on the individual needs and how people can access, analyze, evaluate, create, and use the information in communication. And both these terms, are very necessary for the individual today to critically analyze not only the media content, but also the information that they get and use them for the information to claim their human rights and advance sustainable development. And the media and information literacy is not separate, it is all intertwined. And the UNESCO came up with this composite term as a pedagogical approach in 2007. Now, what are, the media and information literacy competencies? When we say, okay, a person is media and information literate, what are the things that the person should have? Is they should be able to recognize and articulate a need for information and media. They should also understand the role of functions and media and other information providers, including those on the internet. Then, whatever is being put on the media, or whatever one is the content that one is receiving in terms of abstract ideas, they should be able to synthesize it and also locate and access relevant information and media content. It is not enough that only you can access it, but you have to access the right kind of content and synthesize it. Now, the other things is about, critically evaluating the information and the content of media and other information providers, including those on the internet, in terms of authority, credibility, and current purpose and potential risks. Ethically and responsibly use the media and communicate their understanding. Also, be able to apply the information and communication technology skills and engage with information for their self-expression rights. In democratic societies, people can critically look at information and also bring forth their ideas to the government of, if a community is left behind, or if certain rights are not being given to people, or any other information. And these are some competencies which only develop if a person is media and information literate. Now, how are these things relevant for the youth? I would like to quote Paulo Freire: education either functions as an instrument which is used to facilitate integration of the younger generation into the logic of the present system and bring about conformity, or it becomes the practice of freedom, the means by which men and women deal critically with reality and discover how to participate in the transformation of their world. Now, you would say, oh, ma'am, this is a quote about education. Why? Because literacy is related to education. And the UNESCO statement for the United Nations Literacy Decade was, and I quote it here, is literacy is about more than reading or writing. It is about how to communicate in society. It is about social practices and relationship, about knowledge, language, and culture. Those who use literacy take it for granted, but those who cannot use it are excluded from much communication in today's world. Indeed, it is excluded who can best appreciate the notion of, within quotes, literacy as freedom. And, I would like to bring to your notice here that even today in India, where, not everybody is literate, the first thing that a person is able to read or write is he takes the newspaper to read. And that's one of the reasons why the newspaper is still growing in India. Because that gives a sense of liberation. And to be well informed as youth, you need to understand the value of literacy. And here, that's why I gave the quote on education, because literacy is much more than reading and writing. Now, as students, I've already discussed this, that, how do you use MIL in your day-to-day life? You need it for your research skills, to write a term paper, or even to make a film, you need to do research. Your visual communication students, even to create a logo for a company, you need to do certain kinds of research. And after doing research, when you're creating your own things, you need to be sure that you're not copying somebody's work. You need to understand what is plagiarism, what is intellectual property rights, and then avoid it. And in order to write, and when I say write here, I'm not talking only about the verb, the written words, but also about depiction and other things. One has to be like a scholar, where you make your own creation. And for that, it's important that you are aware of the different kinds of information that is available and how to use them, how to create your own news sources from them, or your own new work out of it. Now, some of the factors for low MIL skills is because there is limited media and digital literacy in schools. We do not have adequate knowledge about public libraries and how to use it. Lack of knowledge to use research. And also, a lot of times we cannot differentiate between what is legitimate and what is fake. A lot of websites, if you look at it, it will look like the normal, authentic website. But somewhere, if you look at it closely, you will realize that this is a fake website or a fake company. And the other thing is there's a lot of sharing of fake news through social media and WhatsApp. And in fact, that's one of the reasons now that if you try to do mass forwards in WhatsApp in India, currently you're not able to do. You may not be able to forward, not more than 5 people at a time, and some days not even to more than one person. Now, what happens because of this low MIL skills? Because people have low MIL skills, they are unable to filter out unreliable information that they come across. Even non-authoritative news sources, people believe in them. And the next is a trend that I find with my younger generation friends. They rely heavily on social media for information, including news. And that's not right, because you do not have the right kind of information. It leads to another greater impact for youth is that you're unqualified for many job positions. Your knowledge is very, very superficial. And this is not me saying it. These are all informations that I've picked up from the Pew Research Center, investigations that they have done across the world. Now, coming to the conclusion, I would like to quote Irina Bokova of UNESCO. Media and information literacy has never been so vital to build trust in information and knowledge at a time when notions of truth have been challenged. Unquote. Information and media literacy enables people to show and make informed judgments as users of information and media, as well as to become skillful creators and producers of information and media messages in their own right. I conclude here. I'm open to your questions.
Wow. Wow, ma'am. Today's lecture was a real insight into the basic building blocks of media literacy. You really broke it down for us. I was especially enthralled that you linked media literacy, information literacy to media ethics. And you beautifully explained how they're all interlinked to each other. I was so happy and so glad that you touched upon that and really broke it down for us. We have some really wonderful questions from our participants. And today, we've promised you that we'll take on quite a few. And ma'am is quite excited to take it on. Let's start with the first one. It's from Mr. Pramodre. He asks, if someone is very much attached to print media and don't have access to digital media, how will he or she situate their position in respect to media literacy? How will we situate?
How would we situate? I'm not saying that, because you're not going to use digital literacy, you're not going to use digital media, you will lose out on any kind of an information. Now, what has happened in the digital era is that the immediacy of the news is there on the digital platform. Okay. Today, if you check Twitter, it gets updated by the minute by different news channels. In their breaking news clutter, they sometimes create problems also. But then, if you look at the print media, the newspaper, the whole format of news over the years have changed. Now they are looking at more of analytical opinion pieces, giving you much more than that, because they feel people have already read the breaking news on the digital platform, whether it's your news apps. And Mr. Pramodra, let me assure you that I'm still a very newspaper and a print person. But then, with changing times, we need to adapt. But we should also be able to differentiate between what is right and what is wrong, or what is truth and what is false. I hope I've answered your question.
Ma'am, we have Aarti, ma'am. She's from the batch of 2019 from School of Communication, Manipal. Ma'am, I think the access to libraries has been limited to the university's resources, especially in these corona times. What do you suggest will university students do to continue to be literate in this sense? Will libraries go digital? Will access to more journals become more extensive to pique the interest of research?
Yes, libraries have gone digital. If you look at in the corona times, even those journals which were paid journals have now made them free. In fact, Adobe and others, forget about libraries, even your software companies are coming out with things that students can use during these corona times. And it is not only in India, across the world. In
That's
fact,
one of the huge benefits of these times, right? We can
yeah,
really tap into that. Very true, very true. We have today again with us Parminder Kaur Sandhu from Chitkara University, Punjab. She's joining in today again with us. Welcome. In a culture that values freedom of speech, can we allow the producers of media to maintain that freedom, even though we know that the messages they are sending across are potentially harmful to many groups or individuals within our society?
uh, see, freedom of expression and speech, when we get into the legal debate, it becomes quite complicated at times, given in the current circumstances, and otherwise also. See, if you look at even the way courts have handled, the cases related to freedom of speech in India, we find that there's not been a consistency in the way they have, given judgments. Yeah. uh, on the grounds on which they declare, uh, certain movies are not need to go for a remake, or cut away certain scenes, uh, is sometimes debatable. And I think, Parminder Sandhuji, this can be debated, for a long period of time. That freedom of expression and speech, yes, sometimes media takes a very, very one-sided. I think the media also needs to look at the ethical issues in a very, close scrutiny of themselves, because in India we do not have a kind of a framework outside the media which controls it. It is the media themselves, so they have to look at the ethical issues and give it a lot of importance. That is lacking in the media today, I completely agree with you. But when you take it to the legal side, there's sort of not so much of consistency that you see in the case laws in India.
True, true. We have a question from Mr. Amrit Amlan Patnaik. He is an assistant professor at St. Mary's College, Hyderabad. He asks, how do we help young adults build a framework for tech fluency and media literacy that helps them move from information consumers to independent media creators?
uh, you know Mr. Patnaik, as educators, we need to reinforce this to our students from the very beginning, that they have to, create things very independently. With a basic guidelines from the faculty, they have to create things. uh, a small initiative that we do at MIC is, we form students in small teams and ask them to bring out a weekly newspaper. And there are different columns in the news, different pages of the newspaper, where they have to cover politics, economics, sports, entertainment, those kind of issues. And they themselves debate and understand the faculty is only a guiding force. And then you try to tell them that when they go wrong, we need to correct them. It's not that we leave them like that, we need to correct them. But I think when only you dirty your hands with the mud, can you make a good pot. So the students also need to experiment with a lot of things, do a lot of reading and work on it. Only then will they get into the right frame. And we as teachers have a big responsibility, because we are the ones who are creating them and sending them out into the media world, or they become the information creators tomorrow. So, a lot of responsibility rests on our shoulders, and we need to do it. Make them do small things where you insist that it is not plagiarized. When they do something, they have to give you the sources from where they've got inspired, and things of that kind. And that will make them aware of their responsibility. And when they create things, they will keep these things in mind unknowingly. It would be so much imbibed in them that they will not do it where unconsciously they would have adapted it into them. I hope I've cleared your point to a certain extent.
Definitely the experience that we as students had working on AM Plus was something I had never thought that would affect us as much as it did. It was really important. I'm really glad. We have a question from Mrs. Vijayalakshmi Shankaran. She asks, what's your views about social media memes and media literacy?
Yeah, ma'am. I really wanted to touch that, but somewhere I could not because I realized I was going beyond 35 minutes. Social media and memes is another way of, not spreading a good amount of news. They make everything very satirical, very in a very parody style, and therefore the seriousness of a lot of issues is lost. you know uh, and everything becomes a joke or something to laugh at, which I don't think is always right, because so many people who do not have the capacity to evaluate it, or who do not have the capacity to critically analyze it, think it to be true, and that's really sad. And that's why with social media, the concept of MIL has really, I think, become very important for us to create awareness about it.
Very true. We have today once again Miss Revati, who's an MEd student at RVSC Coimbatore. She asks, how can we motivate the teachers to train today's digital generation? It's challenging for most of the teachers to become tech savvy. A very relevant question, I feel.
Yes, a very relevant question. How do teachers become tech savvy? I think the day we decided to become teachers, we become learners for life. Yeah. And we should not hesitate in learning from our own students. I think they are much more, that's a problem. We think that they know everything, but they know only certain things. They know how to use technology, but beyond that, they do not know a lot of things. So, as teachers, you make them teach you technology and teach them the other things. And I'm telling you from my own personal experience, I've learned technology from my students. Even today, when I went on to Twitter, one of my students walked into my room one day and told me, "Ma'am, you're on Twitter. Last week I saw you, but you're not posting it properly. It has the hashtag should be like this." And then I told him, "Okay, keep following my Twitter and tell me every day what mistakes I make."
Wow.
And in the process, I taught him a certain content, that how he should write about it, and he should check before just liking certain things. So I think it's a two-way interaction that we have to do. And for children, today's children, the only thing that has happened is, it's not, their attention span has gone down. Earlier you could teach a class of 1.5 hours and they'll all listen to you. Today their attention span is not more than 20 minutes. So at 20 minutes as a teacher, I think, you need to give them a break, in the sense that, stop a topic or just revise it or talk to them something, and then again get back to this class seriousness. So in between your 1 hour class, you will have, 2 times a gap where you break them from the monotony of academics and get them into it. I think that is the only way we can get their attention. And we should be using a lot of audio visuals, material, which I understand that for us, some of us who are not digitally very well equipped, it becomes a challenge, but for the others it becomes very easy. But to keep their attention, I think we need to use, audio visual aids or some other method of teaching, which will keep their attention intact.
True, ma'am. We have the next question, ma'am, from Simon Verghese from National Institute of Journalism, Bangalore. What is your take on including media
I've
literacy?
given you a satisfactory answer.
Ma'am? Oh, for the previous question, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Mr. Simon Verghese from National School of Journalism, Bangalore is asking, what is your take on including media literacy in school syllabus?
Yes, I think media literacy should be included in the school syllabus in some form, because today you find a lot of children being cyber bullied. They are also using different kind of digital media, and therefore it's important that in some way we are able to talk about media literacy and information literacy to the children also, especially by the time they reach their class 7th and 8th, when they're 12 and 13, their teenage years. uh, Everybody is busy as children. Somewhere there is parental guidance while they're using our mobiles, but as they move into teenagers, they also start using it independently. So that is the time they should be taught about what is media literacy and what are the things that, without using the term actually media literacy, we could actually teach them that, okay, you're using social media, but be careful. These things could be false, these things could be right. Because I know of cases of young children who've had different kinds of disorders, and people losing their self respect because they are not able to use social media, their parents are not letting them use. Or there are cases where, seeing others, they feel, oh, they are not so beautiful, or they are not so good at creating all these videos and things. So it has different kind of social psychological effects on them, and therefore we need to do educate them by when they are in the 7th and 8th standard, I feel.
Right, ma'am. True, ma'am. We have a question from Mr. Sauvik Acharya. In India, where still 72% of the areas still fall under rural areas. Digital divide is huge. When our government is daydreaming of digital India, whose responsibility is it to educate the masses?
See, ideally, if you ask me, I would say government, but then the government cannot do everything. So I think, as ordinary citizens, we should also take up some kind of an initiative of at least trying to educate people who are around us. And, that way it will spread across. Because digital India may not have a computer, but they all have a mobile. Even in the rural areas that we are talking of, there is more mobiles than TV and other things. And on the mobile today, a data pack, thanks to Geo, everybody can access, and they all access entertainment and news the most. Therefore, you can't expect the government to be doing everything. I think as ordinary people, we can at least try to educate a few. If every school and every college takes up that, okay, the people in their area, they would initiate and educate them with some kind of a campaign or a project, some kind of an voluntary work by the students and faculty. I think that itself will cover a whole lot of area, and then it goes with the multiplier effect.
True, ma'am. We have a sort of an ancillary question, like a part 2 of the same question.
Yeah.
Mrs. Deepa Magesh is asking, she's from Chennai, and she's asking, it's a great session, ma'am. Digital natives and digital immigrants is what her question is about. Don't you think the natives will always have an edge over immigrants?
Nice. Nice to meet you, Deepa, here. She was a colleague of mine in MOP. So nice to see you on a webinar. Deepa, digital natives and immigrants, there might be difference in the use of technology. And let me tell you, digital natives will use technology very well, but a lot of things they are not aware of. They are not aware of how to protect their own privacy. Especially, I would like to emphasize on privacy. In their enthusiasm to do a lot of things, they forget about their own privacy. They're not very careful with a lot of things, maybe because of the age group or whatever, but they're not aware of a lot of things that they need to keep in mind when they are using the digital media. They might be, they might be able to type faster than us. They might be able to, search for things. If there's a new app, they are able to use it very efficiently. Whereas today also, it takes me a lot of time to message also. I would rather call up somebody and talk than message or WhatsApp a person. But then there are other concerns I have, that the digital natives are not paying enough attention to it. And that becomes, a negative thing for them, or that also affects their own safety and security. And usage alone is not enough, but one should be able to, analyze it, create more things out of it. Yes, they are able to do it, but then a lot of places, I think we are better off than them. We might be a little slower. Only the speed is the difference, I feel.
True, ma'am. There's a question, ma'am, from NSA's college. Uh, Without media literacy knowledge, country and state are how can the way it is, how to allow access to the digital platforms?
See, today we are all talking of all these literacy. These didn't exist earlier, and nobody really thought about it, that it would create so much of issues, because media was supposed to be a responsible platform. Yeah, the changes have all happened, if you see, in the last few years. And when I say last few years, at least, in the last three decades. And therefore, this concept of the whole idea of media and information literacy itself, was only conceived of in 2007. Before that, people were talking about, that people should be literate, but literate in the sense of media and information only came in from 2007. And the way technology has advanced over the years, the way it has permeated in all aspects of our life, there's been no, just imagine in the demonetization phase. Yeah, overnight we were all asked to pay on Google Pay or Paytm and things. We did, most of us, at least I didn't know how to use it. And I had to learn it, because everybody, if I wanted to buy grocery, I either had to use my credit card or download a Paytm and do it.
True, ma'am.
Yeah. And therefore, there's no scope that, okay, you make a person literate and then you do it. So therefore, both the things have to go simultaneously. That currently we can only think of that as the best solution, that, okay, you increase media and information literacy. At the same time, the digitization will go on. Now, see, today we are doing everything sitting in the corona pandemic is another example where everything is happening digitally. I don't think we ever thought that, we would be ordering groceries, we would be ordering every little thing of our daily needs, as well as professionally, we are doing everything at the click of a mouse.
Very true, ma'am.
The digitization is why I'm able to talk to so many of you sitting here from Manipal. So, it's happened so quickly that there's been no, kind of an opportunity that you think that, okay, let me make people illiterate and then give them this. No. So it has to happen simultaneously. I hope, I'm able to convince.
Absolutely, ma'am. Your session has been awesome today, ma'am. There's an overwhelming number of questions that everyone has been sending out to us. Thank you so much, participants, for sending this. But unfortunately, we're unable to answer all of them during the live session. But today, I think we did take up quite a few questions, and Dr. Padma Rani has answered them amazingly. I really apologize. I'll definitely collect your questions and send it across to ma'am, and she will get back to you with the answers. As you all know, our webinar series is for 6 days. Today is the 4th day. We have just 2 days left. Dr. Firoz on the first day had given us a fantastic session on the key concepts and scope of media literacy. On the second day, Dr. Anubhuti had given us an excellent practical driven session on media literacy in the disinformation age. Yesterday, we had a thought provoking and an insightful visual journey with Dr. Jayaprakash. And today, ma'am, you have really built upon those building blocks and given us this impactful and insightful webinar. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you. Thank you. Thank you, Ananda, and thank you, Professor Leo, and thank you all the participants and all the people who have asked their questions. I've also thoroughly enjoyed this session, and thank you for listening to me patiently.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So participants, with this, we come to the end of the session today. I would like to thank the management, principal ma'am, and other department faculty and the non-teaching staff for their undivided support and encouragement. You are a backbone for this webinar series to materialize, and of course, our enthusiastic participants for their robust participation. I would also like to extend a sincere thank you to UNESCO GAPMIL and to our media partner, the News Minute. And of course, I would like to thank Dr. Padma Rani for joining us today. I can't wait to continue this conversation tomorrow with Dr. Professor Meera. We have a small promotional video which I'll be putting up on screen right now, in which you'll know what is it that you...
Meera. I'm a filmmaker and professor at Coimbatore University. I've been invited as a guest speaker to do a webinar at Kumaraguru Liberal Arts and Science College in India. I'll be discussing documentary cinema in the disinformation age and showing excerpts of my films Trans India, Majur 9195, and my current project Gorakshaks, the Cow Protectors. Join me this Friday live, 31st July, 10:30 AM UK time, 3 PM Indian time. I hope to see some of you there.
That's what we have lined up for tomorrow. And as you all know, with UNESCO GAPMIL, we've been organizing this webinar, and we'll be having also Alexander speaking to us, Dr. Alexander speaking to us on the 6th day. We have a small promo and a promotional video from him.
Hello, my name is Alexandre Sayad. I'm the co-chair of GAPMIL and also the head of Zeitgeist, a Brazilian educational consultancy. MAHE Alliance, or GAPMIL, it's a UNESCO-led initiative that connects multiple stakeholders around the world on media and information fields to build up a more clear, fair and ethics informational ecosystem. GAPMIL is really proud to be partner of Kumaraguru College and its digital webinar series because both of the institutions work for develop professionals focused on ethics for education, information or communication field. Please join the GAPMIL within the UNESCO main website and I see you soon.
I request our wonderful participants to come back tomorrow as well as day after tomorrow. And tomorrow it's at 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Day after, it's from 6:30 in the evening till 7:30 in the evening. The feedback form will now be posted on the screen. please note the feedback link and the feedback code for today. It's Media Lit. Media Lit. Your certificates are getting ready. We are listening to your feedback every day and improvising our webinar day by day. Thank you so much for that, and have a good day. See you tomorrow.